Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Digital Trust Talks, where we dive into topics shaping the future of digital security from cryptography to compliance and everything in between. I'm your host, Vladimir, and today we're exploring how quantum computing and AI are converging to reshape governance, risk, and compliance, or more commonly referred to as GRC. Today, joining me is Irene Corpuz, a recognized leader in cybersecurity, risk management, and governance. Irene, welcome to the show. Would you be able to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Vladimir. Thank you for the invitation as well. My pleasure to be here. My name is Irene Corpuz. I'm based here in the UAE. I'm a cyber policy expert and GRC expert as well, a founding partner of the Women in Cybersecurity Middle East, and a strategic steering committee member of the Global Forum for Cyber Expertise.
Great to have you with us. So let's start at the top. You spent much of your career bridging governance and innovation. And how do you see quantum computing and AI beginning to reshape the risk and compliance landscape?
That is a very timing question, Vladimir, because at this time, it's like all of a sudden the compliance landscape is getting a lot of panic because of the quantum coming. So two things that you mentioned. Quantum and AI in GRC. So AI is becoming a living control, shall we say. The SOC or Security Operations Center is actively using a lot of AI enabled tools. So these models, they continuously watch the identities, the logs, transactions, they trigger um, activities or incidents. On the other hand, the quantum, what is coming in quantum right now, the risk that we are seeing and the most common to most of us now is the harvest now, decrypt later risk. So, quantum is a crypto life cycle shock. It's what reshapes the risk and compliance landscape, as we say. So, with all of the NIST finalized PQC standards, the organizations need to plan for long lived data and cryptography refresh.
Yes. I mean, yeah, so definitely, the quantum computing threat that we're going to be seeing is probably going to be causing us to do the biggest cryptographic migration yet in history.
Yes,
Uh,
and in fact, sorry if I may also add, you will see that let's say in the U.S. they already have this memo or circular that informs the agencies that they should do their planning, and the full transition targeted is until 2035. But I think I heard that some of the cases that have been told to start migration by 2030 now they have become earlier. I'm hearing a January 2027 quantum safe requirement to be put in place. In Canada, they also released their document that by migration plan April 2026 migration plan should start. Australia, the same thing by end of 2030, use the PQC. So a lot of countries now are moving, and it is something that we have to align with all those preparations as well, because quantum is not just country based; it's for all of us. Communication is global.
Absolutely. I mean, usually it takes only one weak link to break into it. And right now, we think of a world as this ecosystem, having one country that is not compliant, either they would be disconnected or they're going to be, the entry point for adversaries.
Yes, true, of course, yes.
So AI brings enormous potential for predictive and automated risk management, but also a new oversight challenges, right? Because on one side, we can probably think, well, AI can actually help us automate a number of tasks, but at the
Mm.
same time, we know how wrong AI could be, right? For instance, I played myself with ChatGPT asking cryptographic questions, and unfortunately, sometimes it goes badly wrong with some of them. So yeah, there needs a serious oversight. I mean, it's a nice tool to use as an assistant. So,
Mm.
what does AI driven GRC from your perspective look like? in a regulated environment, and how can leaders balance this automation versus accountability and control over what AI?
Yeah, regulated environment. When we say regulated environment, it means it's a setting where the operations must follow specific laws, standards, or a certain oversight is imposed by a government or authority. As examples of this are the banks and insurance companies. You know, the financial regulations. Hospitals, they have the health data protection laws, and most government authorities or agencies globally, there is always a data residency and security. So, in short, when you say regulated, it means it's an industry or setting governed by strict compliance rules for security, privacy, and reporting. So, in this environment or in this scenario, AI enables real-time monitoring and prediction risks, but it could be in a tiered automation. When we say tiered automation, it can be like tier one could be like assisting only, like triggering an alerts. Tier two could be pre-approved playbook or runbooks, and tier three, this could be the autonomous guardrails. There are narrow actions which you can do an auto rollback. So from predictive to prescriptive risk management, it means controls will require to have model registry or versioning. There should be decision logs. There will always be human in the loop. Because why does it matter? By the way, the EU AI Act, I guess you've heard, it will start or it will culminate in Q3 of 2026. So there are mostly obligations that firms will need to have touch point, and there will be need to have an evidence that automation is explainable, it is monitored, and it is overridable.
Okay, amazing, amazing. I mean, yes, it's I think it's essential to make sure that there is a control over the
Yes,
automation, not
yes,
let don't let just the machines make decisions because
of
they
course.
can go wrong.
Yeah, even in other operational applications, for example, in HR recruitment, if HR is now using an AI-enabled recruitment tool, I guess there is a law or an act in the U.S. that there should always be a bias check. So when you use it for hiring, there should be a bias check by humans. These are audit guardrails, you know.
Okay, yeah, I mean, a great example also to talk about the biases. That's another interesting side to look at.
Mm.
Uh, if we come back to the quantum side, right? We kind of talked about, the threat to cryptography, etc. And of course, I mean, we probably understand right now that, how big of a threat it is to cryptography, how big of a change we're yet to live through. But I wanted to sort of get your perspective. How should organizations begin to integrate quantum readiness into their GRC framework specifically? Uh,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, you know, they said you don't need to plan tomorrow. You have to plan now. So we know that the cryptography that we are using right now are already vulnerable, especially when the quantum computer comes, that they can, let's say, built with or enabled with Shor's algorithm, it is easily to compromise all the cryptography that we have. So do an inventory, a crypto CBOM or crypto bill of materials. Like look at the data that have long shelf lives. Those data that may exist and remain valid even for the next 10 or 20 years. Because if I am, let's say, the adversary or the hacker, right now I'm already gathering the data, but what matters to me are the data that still can be used in 10 to 20 years when I already am equipped with a quantum computer that can encrypt them. Yeah. So do a crypto bill of material, the C-bomb thing. Prioritize the early migrations, those data that are encrypted by the ones that are vulnerable already right now. This is the approach of those countries that I mentioned earlier, the US, the Canada, Australia, even Singapore. So it is not a one-time, big-time migration. The reason you do this is because you need to have a phased approach. and you have to make sure that you can roll back in case there are issues. Just like the usual backup and recovery thing. Before you roll out an application in the live environment, you have to do a testing, and if it doesn't work, then don't roll it out. So this is a critical migration. It has to be done in phased approach. And as you can see, the transition is not just 1 year or 2 year. You've heard it. It's 2035, 2028, 2030. So we're talking about years here.
Yes, and actually, I like the fact that you've mentioned, one of the first steps is actually getting, the cryptographic inventory. Some organizations call it CBOM, which has been done standardized, but a more deeper crypto inventory to understand what you have in the first place. Because
Mm,
realistically, throughout the whole cryptographic history, as we may say, so this has never been done. I mean, it's a great time right now to do this. It's good to do it
mhm,
regardless of quantum threat or no quantum threat by doing the
mhm,
cryptographic inventory. And I think actually there are some regulations that I've seen that EU has released that by, I believe, 2020, end of 2026 is when they need to actually do their cryptographic inventory.
mm.
I mean, it's great to have a timeline on that phase as well, because you've
Yes.
mentioned that it must be done in phases. And I think
Mhm.
it's great to have a phased approach with deadlines for each phase, because if you said 2035, you'll probably see quite a lot of organizations starting to work on it 2034 and realize that this is a 10-year long journey.
Yeah, yeah, and you also, aside from us, because we are the end users, right? We are the ones concerned about the threat that quantum computers will bring into us, and we are in the cybersecurity industry. But we also have to remember that there is the research and development area who are also um, moving faster than we can imagine right now. So the race for quantum supremacy. Everyone is developing and always trying to be ahead of the others, but the other research and development, on the other hand, focus on what can be reasonably applicable to the real industries that need the quantum the most. For example, in finance, IBM and HSBC have already partnered on that. This month, October, in Abu Dhabi, there was a quantum maritime summit, and you can already see the demonstration on how quantum computer can be used in the maritime industry, and so forth and so on. Therefore, they are the research and and development, but we are on the cybersecurity side. So we have to understand how fast they are moving, and we have to do as much effort as well. So in the cybersecurity, in the end, is our responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of good uses of why quantum computers are needed. That's why it's being scaled. And actually, another interesting thing that I'm kind of following as well is that on one side, quantum computers are scaling, which means that, the CRQC is getting closer. But other part of research is actually reducing the number of logical qubits needed to break cryptography. So that's another thing that is approaching the quantum threat day.
Yes, yes, and it's like sometimes we say that we cannot catch up anymore. If we're planning to do some security measures, it becomes obsolete even before we roll it out.
Yes, yes. Technically, from that point of view, we need to migrate as soon as possible so that the losses or the impact is as little as possible.
Yes,
You know.
yes, we don't feel a huge impact when the incident those incidents happen. Yes.
And you also mentioned about, end users and looking from security point of view, and a lot of times for various organizations, it's going to be at the end of the day kind of CISO's part of, or at least part of CISO's responsibility working on this. He might have various technical teams. And this becomes a
Hmm.
very tough one because the CISOs need to really change their mindset on how to approach this, right? So I wanted to ask you, as we move into 2026, what should boards and CISOs prioritize to build trust and resilience in a world where both AI and quantum disruptions are accelerating faster than regulations?
Uh, you mentioned again what I said, that technology and innovation are moving faster than we can ever build a regulation to ensure still the compliance at a certain point. But looking ahead, the priorities for boards, I would say, and the CISOs. Um, perhaps I can give you an example. 2 weeks ago, I talked on a crowd of about on a community an event that has about 250 attendees, and it was a leadership summit. Three speakers talking about leadership, and here I am talking about quantum. And the title of my presentation was "So You Know AI Well." Are you ready for quantum? So when I opened that title, I said, can anyone raise your hands if you know about quantum? Almost no one raised their hand. So to me, I think the priority is, we already know that AI governance and readiness is already known to most of the boards, and CISOs are already embedding their role in terms of implementing AI risk management. But in quantum, we have to create this awareness. I do not want to be in a situation wherein when I enter a boardroom and I ask, have you heard of quantum? No one will raise their hand. Okay, so this is a no-no when it comes to the boardroom. So quantum safe program must be introduced at the earliest. In fact, it should have already been introduced at this time, particularly for the CISOs who always put um, risk-based assessment in every program, in every implementation, controls, security controls. It is risk-based. So depending on how the CISOs sees is their organization and threat landscape of the organization, particularly in the coming of the quantum, their action will depend on that. Know their threat landscape and create an awareness. Start communicating to the board about the quantum risks, and of course, don't forget to mention both sides. What would be the benefit if the quantum is applicable to their industry? But at the same time, if they are not the use case like the bank or the maritime, for example, what should they be doing to ensure that they are safe on this harvest now, decrypt later threat?
Great. That's fantastic insight, Irene. I really thank you for all that. And the few things we that really stand out for me is, well, first of all, as you mentioned, when we use AI to help us with governance, should be tiered, right? It should be tiered. It should be human controlled. It's a very, very important approach to take. Quantum readiness is a strategic governance challenge that belongs to every board and every CISO, and that should be part of the risk management. And
Mhm.
finally, responsible innovation will define the organization that stay trusted in this next wave. If we can say, well, wave is actually probably a very diminishing way to say it. It's a huge wave of change that is coming upon us. I mean, it's
Mhm.
exciting. It's interesting times. It's complicated times, but it's interesting times to be living through at
Mhm.
this point.
Yeah.
So
Can I add one more thing? By the way, I forgot about it, but this is very important. The supply chain, very very important. Third party assurance. Add the AI usage clauses and the PQC readiness to your vendor contracts, if possible, so that your vendors would know that they are also your risk. You know.
absolutely, absolutely. And this is actually where also CBOM and crypto inventory comes, right? On one side,
Mm,
it's great to enforce them in a contractual way. What you said is it's a great, approach to say that they are responsible for taking care of, quantum resistance or quantum safety side from
mm.
whatever they're bringing to you. But if you also are doing crypto inventory, you can actually double check on their tools. Are they truly compliant with respect to what you're receiving from them, what they're claiming that what's inside, their products?
Yes, and even if, as we know, migration or the preparedness is not easy. We also have to understand that your vendors also experience the same way. So it is not maybe not mandatory that when you supply something to us and it is encrypted, it should follow the PQC. Maybe just say what is your transition plan or migration plan, and these ones that are providing to us, when can you migrate them to quantum safe cryptography?
Yeah. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean, planning is essential. As you mentioned, a lot of organizations, part of their planning is being educated. They're not educated about the quantum threat at this point. I think they're very lagging very much behind in terms of where they
Yes.
should be. But
Hmm.
even if they're very much behind right now, they should start to catch up, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
Irene, I thank you very much for joining us. Your perspective on connecting technology, risk, and governance is very valuable. For everyone tuning in, you can catch this and other episodes of Digital Trust Talks on LinkedIn and YouTube, where we explore the wide matters behind today's biggest cybersecurity shifts. Until next time, stay secure, stay curious, and keep building digital trust. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.